Joining us now for more is one of the first people to ever blow the whistle on what she says is absolutely happening, and that our own government has been involved for decades, spraying chemicals into the air with no regard for the people those chemicals could be hurting. I want to welcome in former U.S. Air Force environmental specialist and geoengineering whistleblower, Kristen Megan. It's great to have you back, Kristen. Appreciate you being here. So you've been talking about this issue for years now. Can you take us through what you say is absolutely happening?
Yeah, thanks for having me back. This is absolutely happening, and it's basically now openly admitted, even though you're getting kind of pushback from the EPA, but I don't think it's intentional. What I discovered around starting in 2007, I was working in bioenvironmental engineering in the Air Force. And like I had mentioned previously, I tried to debunk this. And in the attempt to debunk it, I realized as somebody who was approving forms called Air Force Form 3952s, I had to reject these toxicants on formerly known as an MSDS, now an SDS, because they're the very same toxicants we were trying to engineer out of the workplace. So why would we be procuring more? So lots of soil sampling, air sampling. Once I got threatened, I knew I'd found something, and it's very much happening. In fact, when I finished my master's around 2015, it was in one of my environmental textbooks that they were doing it. So it's a shock
Really?
to me that people still think it's not happening. Yes,
Yeah.
I sold the book, but I wish I still had it.
And we can all see it if you look up, and it just doesn't make sense, that it's coming from like a Delta flight flying overhead. So your role in the Air Force, if I'm understanding it correctly, was basically to approve these flights long before takeoff, and eventually you just said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. Is that accurate broadly?
Well, it wasn't approving the flights. So when you're using hazardous materials, you have to track them from cradle to grave, use and disposal. So when I was in the Air Force, I'm basically OSHA and EPA, but in the military. So I had to
Okay.
make sure that we were keeping workers safe. So we had to understand what we were bringing on and how could it affect human and environmental health.
Right. People will say to me, they're like, well, we don't think this is happening. If this isn't happening, why have multiple states passed laws banning weather engineering, including Florida, including Texas? Can you explain that?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I know a lot of people have taken the angle of because people still don't believe it. Even if you don't believe it, there's people that are trying to take action saying, look at what they're claiming. Because when the government claims that they're going to do something, they're already doing it. And they're trying to say, even if you don't believe it, would you want it to happen? It has these human and environmental impacts. So, yes, and there's a lot of those legislators have reached out to myself and Dane Wigington over the past couple of years. So they
Yes.
have the information and all the government documents that are on geoengineeringwatch.org.
Biggest question, in your opinion, why is this being done? And again, it might not be EPA, could be DARPA, could be War Department, could be private companies, but why are they doing this?
I think there's a multitude of reasonings. You control the weather, you can handicap many people. We did it flooding the Ho Chi Minh Trail. But when you have this huge climate change initiative, we needed to find ways to dim the sun and decrease the solar load. So this is fear-based. And I also think it's financially incentivized through betting on crops. And again, handicapping anyone in war.
Yeah, so it kind of takes away the organic from anything organic you're buying, because this is then sprayed into the air, and then and gravity brings it down. Eventually the rain brings it down, and it is all over all of us. What are these crops doing to people? Or I'm sorry, these chemicals doing to people?
Well, a lot of them are heavy alkaline metals and salts. And what they do, again, is that synergistic toxicity. You're breathing it in, you have the dermal absorption and an inhalation. And it does depend on relative humidity and different weather patterns. Like I live in Michigan, so we have all seasons in the same day. So
Right.
the dissipation rates are faster. When you ingest that, it is eating away at your gut health. And the thing is when they're using strontium and barium, those things bioaccumulate in the bones, and it also displaces potassium. And if anyone's ever had low potassium, you know that causes a massive issue with your nerves and your heart, and it can mimic a heart attack. So we're getting massively bombarded because, again, different routes of exposure. And depending on where you live, you can be more exposed already because you have background elements in your drinking water.
Jeez, it's so scary. Kristen, we appreciate you being with us again tonight. Thank you. Look